Thank you for joining. My name is Michael LeBeau, a Senior Solutions Consultant for Quest Software. Today we'll cover the last portion of the Enterprise Reporter presentation. We will be covering use cases with Enterprise Reporter. I've taken the use cases and divided them into three different areas where our resellers, our customers are most commonly using the solution, and that is a cleanup, migration, and security. Each has their own reports that can report on different things. As always, these are not the end-all and be-all reports. There are different reports available in each one of these specific areas depending on your needs. Take an example in the cleanup area. First thing you want to do is go out and try and take out or identify trash. And in this case, we'll look at domain groups without members. These are just groups that are sitting there. You'll notice that each one of these orbs has been satisfied and the settings have been saved as parameters. These reports are now schedulable. We'll run one of these reports as an example. You can see all of the groups that have no members. And this is a list that can easily be output to a CSV file. Just click on the Export CSV. It'll give you the name of the file and ask if you want to see that. Of course, with the CSVs, you may want to edit the output. So you can come to the editing of the report, go to the CSV options, where you can select and move any field that you want to up and down in the report selection. So when it's output to a CSV, it will be in the right order with just the information that you're looking for. The second use case that we have in this cleanup is domain users without recent logons. Again, we've satisfied all of that information, and we can pick out all of the users who haven't logged on in some period of time or have never logged on before, where this report, if we look at the headers, gets the last logon timestamp for each user and the number of logons for that user, as well as if they're disabled or locked. This will help you also with the security of your environment. The last password change and logon for domain computers. This report is significant because historically, computer objects in Active Directory have been ignored, especially when computers have been decommissioned. In this case, this will show you all of the computers, the last time the password changed, and the last logon timestamp. If we take this information knowing that all systems have to have their password changed within 30 days in a standard default network, then this information becomes extremely valuable. And of course, you have the optional report for users who have never logged on. This helps you identify anything that is not functional in the domain. So you can take out any kind of account that has not been used in quite some time. Migration is a different case. It's a combination of being able to take out the trash with the cleanup so you're not migrating garbage, but it's also part security where you need to make sure you know what the domain structure is like, identifying what you're going to migrate, and make sure that you're not migrating over data that you don't need. In this case, domain accounts with SID history attribute that are not empty. Unfortunately, I don't have any data to satisfy this report, but if you're trying to migrate data and you want to identify anything that may have SID history for security purposes, this report will be hugely beneficial. If you need to find out the domain controllers by site, I have a very simple network in this place, and you can see that I have multiple domain controllers all in the default first name site. Domain groups with only one members. This is one where you may want to consider all of the groups that have just one member in them, and that's typically the owner, that these groups may not be suitable for migration. Of course, if you need to identify the OU structure, it's very hard to document manually. We'll go ahead and document it with canonical naming within your domain. And of course, you have to identify all the FSMO roles within the domain. You might have to migrate them or split them apart, depending on the scenario in which you're trying to play in the migration. The third area is security. Security is important. not only on-prem, but in the cloud. Just as an example, you may want to know your application service principals in the cloud for a tenant-to-tenant migration, or just to try and lock down your own security. Because we've been able to collect data from Entra ID, we'll be able to run this report and identify all of the service principals for all of the applications that we would have in Entra ID. We can also go out on-prem and look for privileged domain groups and their members. Of course, they have a filter in this report where we're identifying specific groups within the directory. This is immediately modifiable. All you have to do is click on the magnifying glass, put in a partial name match, or just click the magnifying glass and all the groups will be listed. Of course, you may want to prerequisite the group with your domain name / for a filtered list just from the domain. This report will go in and show you all of the privileged domain groups and all of the members in those privileged groups. The next item is the user's golden ticket mitigation. Microsoft has recommended that the golden ticket password be changed on a regular basis. Many people do not know how to go and check this. We'll give you the account that needs to be changed and the last password change for that account, and it is recommended that you change that password twice every year. The user's privileged accounts that are vulnerable to a Kerberos attack. This is one that we identify any kind of privileged accounts that could be Kerberos. And of course, I've got one account, which is a service account that is viable for the Kerberosing because the password never expires, is set to true. All right, those are three different areas in which Enterprise Reporter can be hugely advantageous to anyone who uses it. There's several hundred reports in the report library, and of course those reports can be modified. Once modified and scheduled, Enterprise Reporter becomes an effective fire and forget information source for most of our users.